Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Ordinary Council Meeting 4550 of Hunters Hill Council. Unusually, but I think it is appropriate to do so. We start tonight's council meeting in quite difficult circumstances for broader Sydney. On behalf of the entire community of Hunters Hill, I'd like to extend our heartfelt condolences to all those affected by the massacre at Bondi yesterday on Sunday the 14th of December. What should have been a joyous occasion for Hanukkah for the Jewish community turned out to be a very devastating day for this city and for the Jewish community, particularly in Bondi. We condemn the horrific act of terrorism and stand with the Jewish community of Sydney, of Bondi, of Hunters Hill, and the broader Jewish community who are affected very significantly by the events of the last 24 hours. I send condolences to all of our Jewish residents in Hunters Hill and reassure them all that we stand with you for those that have lost loved ones, for those that are praying for the swift recovery of those still in the ICU. We are thinking of you, and it is a very difficult day. It's been a very difficult 24 hours. Councillor Tanus Lehman, less than 6 months ago, passed a motion condemning anti-Semitism here in Hunters Hill, and I'd like to thank her for all her advocacy of the Jewish community over the last couple of years, and particularly it's been a very difficult day for her. Last 24 hours she's lost acquaintances and friends. I know that she spent time in the hospitals last night. I ordered that the council fly the flags at half-mast today, and we'll be continuing to do that for a couple of days to come. But could I please ask you all to be outstanding for a minute's silence? Thank you all. If you could remain standing, sorry, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and hand over to Reverend Michael Armstrong, who will be delivering the prayer.
Today is the second day of Hanukkah, known as the Festival of Lights, on which candles are lit, remembering the light in the midst of darkness, and that it is possible to overcome it all. For Christians, this is a season of Advent, where we also light candles every Sunday as we count down to Christmas Day. Our Christian candles symbolise hope, love, joy, and peace. And so as I pray tonight, I will light this candle in solidarity with the many victims of Bondi and their families and friends and all who are affected, as a symbol of the light that shines despite the darkness. Gracious God, on this night we hold all victims of terror, especially those who have suffered such evil in Bondi last night. We hold all who grieve this day, all who are afraid, all who feel lost and disconnected, all who wait on news, all who pray beside hospital beds. We hold all who are affected in our hearts and prayers. We give thanks for first responders, healthcare workers, and all who provided care, those who risked their own lives for others. Gracious God, on this night, we pray for your peace in our world. We pray for peacemakers in our community, for peace in our families, among friends and neighbours and businesses. Gracious God, on this night we pray for love in our world. We give thanks for all the places where love abounds and that may flow across our community, overcoming hate and ending all divisions. Gracious God, on this night we pray for hope for our world. We give thanks for those who ran towards the danger, those who provide care and support, those who stepped out and stepped up. We give thanks for those in our community who provide hope through their kindness, care and concern. Gracious God, on this night we pray for joy in our world. In the midst of our grief and pain, may we still find joy which overcomes sadness, encouraging, nurturing and supporting one another to still see the possibilities, even to laugh despite the pain. May we, Lord, share in love, hope, joy and peace across our community and bring a new world where such things are the norm. On this night we pray for our council, for our municipality, for our councillors and staff. They too may know these gifts of love and hope and joy and peace, and we may all share in them together. This I pray in the name of Jesus, the light of the world.
Amen. Please be seated. Councillors, I know it is a little unusual, but if anyone would like to make any personal reflections, I'd welcome you to. Councillor Denise Sleeman.
Thank you very much. There was a minute's silence that we should have avoided today. The loss of lives, the hate and the violence that we allowed to fester, and the leadership that let the wider community down. Today we've got to stand united so we can keep our promise, work in the best interest of our community. Last July, as I may, kindly reminded us that the council did show up. We did the right thing. As many of you know, as a Lebanese Christian and as an Australian, we didn't wait beyond one attack on our doorsteps. We acted quickly, and the entire council, every councillor today, voted unanimously to pass a motion. Where a lot of other councils with a larger Jewish population struggled. They struggled because they were too sensitive with political correctness. They didn't want to call it this, they wanted to call it that. But we had to call it for what it was. It was an attack on the Jewish community. I'm very proud that as a council we showed the courage and that this motion was passed unanimously. And it just wasn't a motion to condemn anti-Semitism, it was a motion to be proactive because words are nothing without action. This strategy that I know Andy's been working on will be a strategy and a framework that we can say proudly that will support and serve the community and to support the whole community. Because any attack on anyone in our community is an attack on all of us. To be very clear, yes, it was an attack on Australians last night. But our state and federal government has failed us. It took our leaders multiple media statements to call it for what it was. It wasn't an act of hate, it was an attack on the Jewish community. Innocent Jewish lives celebrating Hanukkah with kids. The Jewish community have been crying for 2.5 years. I've been crying for 2.5 years because I have heard and seen things that most of you in this room would not believe has been normalised. If you walk out of this pocket of beautiful Hunters Hill, which I think is the best suburb in Sydney, not everyone shares our values, not everyone shares what I'm talking to you today. They have normalised this hate, and that is not the Australia that we know. And it's a freedom that was tested last night, a freedom that we should be able to walk into our place of worship freely. I live right across Holy Name of Mary. Funnily enough, I'm always late to church by about 10 minutes. I go into church as a free person with my kids. I don't need to worry about somebody that's going to have a rifle. I don't need to worry about a security or a police. What has become acceptable? What has become acceptable? There's a community that's got to hire their own police. My husband and I drove last night to the eastern suburbs. When most people were driving out, we were driving in. And there was hundreds of Jewish security around homes. The police were overwhelmed. They were sitting at Bondi, doing an amazing job trying to calm down a very chaotic moment. But we couldn't stay at home. We couldn't sit down in our beautiful home in Hunters Hill. We had to turn up and stand shoulder by shoulder to a Jewish community. I'm very proud to be here as a councillor. I hesitated a couple of years ago to run. I didn't know if I could put this on my plate. But I'm very proud that I'm standing here as not only as a leader, but somebody that represents all communities. I'm very sorry to all the innocent lives. I'm sorry to the members of our Jewish community. May God bless the departed, and prayers for all our families and to all members of our community that have been impacted. May God rest their souls. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turnous-Sleeman. Councillors, any other personal reflections? I will just say a big thank you from our community to all the emergency responders and first responders, and particularly to the police. If you'd like a way to help, the New South Wales Government is encouraging all those with blood type A to please donate blood. To donate. And flowers can be left near Bondi Pavilion. Councillors, we move to the formal part of the agenda. The proceedings of all meetings in open session, including all debate and addresses by the public, are recorded and webcast live on Council's website for the purpose of facilitating community access. Webcast archives are stored and available to the public on Council's website. The recordings may be disclosed under the provisions of the Government Information Public Access Act of 2009, the GIPA Act. Members of the public attending a council meeting may have their image, voice and personal information, including their name and address, recorded, publicly broadcast and archived, or as an observer or other interested party, members of the public consent to the use of their image, voice and personal information. Councillors, is there any declarations of interest? Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at the citizenship assessment panel, I declared an interest in one of the items. So I just
we'll note that
tonight's business paper.
I will also note that I did receive a formal apology from Councillor Mark Lane, so I'll actually have that moved. If I could move Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Turnous-Sleeman. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Any other declarations of interest, councillors? No. If not, we'll move to item 1, confirmation of minutes of ordinary meeting 4551 held 17 November 2025. Moved Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Prieston. Any discussion? Not. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. There are no mirror minutes or reports or notices of motion. Now move to item 4.1, leasing of part of the road reserve adjacent to 1 Nelson Parade, Hunters Hill. And we have 2 speakers to this item. Our first speaker is Maureen Flowers. Thank you, Maureen. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak on behalf of the Friends of Kelly's Bush. I hope you don't mind if I could just give you things that I will be referring to. I promise it won't be longer than the 5 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We're delighted to acknowledge that Council is addressing this long-standing and very vexatious matter, and we congratulate the current property officer for taking this problem on board and suggesting a solution. However, we would like to request that Council be a little more ambitious in their response to this persistent encroachment on Crown land and Council reserves. This matter has unbelievably been going on for 25 years, and we have alerted council to the issue on many occasions over that time, with the latest approach being on the 19th of October 2022. The clearing and degradation of most of the native vegetation alongside 1 Nelson Parade and the clearing of trees in the Wharf Reserve directly below the house, in spite of notifications sent by council, has over the years become much more extensive and severe, as you can see from the photos that I've given the councillors from 2013 through to 2020. So that's a selection of the passage of what's been happening. We understand that the small area of the swimming pool encroaching on public land was as a result of a DA approved by council. So we would like to suggest that the proposed rectangular strip of the road reserve, which is actually a wetland protected area and is on Sydney's green grid, be reduced to only the area around that part of the pool that was legally built and does not extend in a vertical line to take in the other illegally placed landscaping features. There is no excuse for these extra structures to have been erected. And as this is public land, we would ask that council insists they are removed, and as suggested in this proposal, that fencing all along the property's boundary with the road reserve be installed at the owner's expense. Sadly, there continues to be damage to native bushland in the Wharf Reserve below the house. For instance, very recently, council's bush care coordinator planted a small Moreton Bay fig to rehabilitate some of the area, but when he went back a few days later, the tree had been pulled out of the ground. Rather than rewarding this persistent and willful damage and disregard of council's requests to cease and desist by increasing the property's area, even if only by lease, we feel it is well beyond time for council to start insisting on a course of action. I'm sorry.
Moves, extension of time, Councillor Williams, second to Councillor Prieston. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Maureen. Another minute.
We feel it's well beyond time for council to start insisting on a course of action that results in some restitution and the removal of the intrusions. We look to councillors to redress the balance when this type of private interest seeks to override the public good. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Councillors, any questions? Not? Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is Jim Sanderson. Thank you, Jim. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The land that's the subject of tonight's motion is not remnant land. It is part of an extraordinary precinct that extends all the way from Wharf Reserve around to the goat paddock. We've just seen this community stand up to defend an important area of that land in Woolwich Marina and the encroachment that was going to occur there. I think, although this is a far more smaller scale, this needs to be considered more carefully. My view is that this land must be returned to the public as soon as possible. We have a significant encroachment problem in this municipality, and it needs to be dealt with. On my count, there's something like 4 lots of encroachment in Nelson Parade alone, let alone some of the others that are impeding access of our public to the waterfront. I'm very concerned that if we take this course of action tonight, it'll set a precedent that it's okay to reward people who have occupied council or Crown land for some time. During my time on council, toward the end of that time, we did develop a strategy to deal with this problem. And that problem was, or that strategy was well spelled out, and part of it was specific to this particular problem. I really question why we have moved away from that strategy. I think it's important that this land is all land that provides access for our community is retained in public hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, councillors, any questions of Mr Sanderson? No, thank you, Jim. Councillors, we now move to item 4.1. Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that I submitted to the General Manager.
Yes. You're up on the
It's
screen.
not very long,
All
so
good.
it's not
Yep.
a major issue. While it's coming up on the screen, I'll just.
Maybe if you just read it out,
Yeah, I'll
councillor.
just read
Yes.
it out.
Sorry.
There's only 7 points and they're short ones. The council receive and note the report. Item 2, serve a notice to give an order to stop use of the land under the EPA Act. 3, serve a notice to give an order to fence the land under the Local Government Act. 4, serve a notice to give an order to demolish structures under the EPA Act. 5, serve a notice for the owner to restore the bushland. 6, consult with the RFS and Fire and Rescue New South Wales regarding the requirements for a fire break. And the final one is 7, take all necessary steps to integrate the unmade Nelson Parade Road Reserve and Wharf Road into a Kelly's Bush title.
Thank you, councillor Williams. Is the motion seconded? Seconded. Councillor Vergara. You wish to speak to the motion, councillor?
Yes, Mr Mayor. As was pointed out by the speakers tonight, this is a very long and protracted issue, and on several occasions, council has made a decision not to enter into a lease on the property. And there was a briefing given to council back in 2023 where council was given given options as to how it wished to deal with it. And what I've done there is taken from that briefing, which I understand to be legal statements that would allow council to move forward in a positive way to ensure that the public have full and unfettered access to public lands. I believe this would set a major precedent if council was to allow such a long-standing issue to then be resolved by the landholder getting a lease and access to the land. There are numerous unresolved encroachments across the municipality, which I believe if we allow a lease on the basis of this one, then how would council say no to the others? It would open the gates. I think council needs to stand firm on this issue. It is a vital issue, and it is one that I think, well, in that briefing we had in 2003, called it trespass. It's trespass on council land. And so therefore council must act to ensure that the land is regained for public use. And the last statement I made there is something that I was keen to pursue several years ago, and I spoke to the Department of Planning and the Department of Lands, and they agreed that they were willing to incorporate the 3 portions of Kelly's Bush with Nelson Parade and Wharf Road to make a clear statement of the importance of Kelly's Bush, its history, and its significance as a heritage listed item. That would give clear recognition to the Kelly's Bush entity and would give a more guaranteed outcome for a consolidated site. So I believe that we need to act here to make sure the community does have access, that we do it in an appropriate way, and that we take steps to ensure the long-term protection of not only this portion, but of the Greater Kelly's Bush. I might also add that I'm aware of that private ownership land, which is about 1 metre wide, I think, by I don't know, 50 metres or something. That is something the council wouldn't be able to incorporate, but it's only a very small part of the process. So I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Just on that last point, if this motion got up, it doesn't address that non-compliance, the council approved portion of the pool. How would we deal with it? Because that would not lay to rest the issue, and I think everyone on council wants this dealt with because it's been going on for so long. How would you deal with that under this motion?
Well,
I can't see which point would.
Well, okay, I'm quite happy to add an extra point, but at no stage have I seen that approval. Quite often, council gives approval for works, and they're not completed in compliance with those works. So I guess it's a question to the general manager. Has there been a check to ensure that the works comply with what the original approval is?
The officer went through all those, and I believe so. What was approval in those days was a lot less onerous than what we do these days. So I would say that it's been approved, and it's probably been inspected and approved in that location.
Does that include the surrounds? Because the pool itself, the physical structure of the pool, just fits within the boundary of the property. I understood that it was the auxiliary decking or whatever that was put in to assist in the use of the pool, as opposed to
those plans in front of me, so I can't answer that tonight.
Well, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, I would add part A.
You don't need to. I'm just saying I'm just saying that this won't deal with the whole issue, and we all want the whole issue dealt with.
It won't deal with the pool if the pool is actually physically on council land, which
yes.
I'm not. And the report in the papers doesn't really delve back into the full 25-year history. We've only got a snapshot of recent times, and I think it's important that we understand the depth of history and the intent which council had in the past and should maintain in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any speakers against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Vergara? Question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, probably to the director. If we serve those orders and they're not complied with, so they're ignored, what then? I'm trying to play this movie forward because this has been a Gordian knot of a problem for council for more than 20 years. And while I support this motion, I think it's the perfect solution. I don't think it's practical or feasible, which is my concern. And so then we should look at something that saves as much as the land as possible, but is also feasible given the nature of the problem, including that council has approved some of these structures. So question
yes.
in short to the director.
Gordian knot.
Well, through
General Manager.
you, Mr. Mayor, if they weren't adhered to the orders, we would then have to enforce the orders. That would mean land and environment court action, and would also or there could be no action, they just stay there again. What we're trying to do is come up with something that actually gets us solution. Remember, it's every 5 years. It's a 5-year lease. We're not actually saying it's there forever, but it's trying to get something regular there and start to tidy up what's been a long going issue and give both the resident and the community some form of closure, I suppose, to the issue.
Resolution. Director.
Just to add to that through you, Mayor, it's twofold. If they don't act on those orders and comply, we can take legal proceedings. However, the applicant has a right to take proceedings against us. The orders might be unlawful, so undoable. So there's two ways that this goes to a legal place. I believe the intent, the general manager can add, I believe the whole intent of this solution is to avoid that action and have a solution-driven approach rather than a legal approach. And having said that, because it's been going for so many years, the court might say, why wasn't this raised many years ago? Why wasn't this resolved many years ago? And what is the environmental impact on these non-compliances, and can they be resolved? And if I was an applicant, I'd probably say a solution can be driven this way.
Councillor Vergara.
Sorry, one more question. This red thing, that's just illustrative, I understand it. It's not necessarily the boundaries, and you have the lease would be more prescriptive in terms of the area. So as one of the speakers said, it could be quite tighter than that. Is that right?
That's true, that's correct. There'd be a proper survey done and it'd be brought up right close to the side. So we'd be pulling it back as far as we could towards that. A good full survey, and that's why we need to get some direction from council so we can get an agreement to undertake those works and come up with the final leased area.
Yes. Councillors, any speakers against the motion? For the motion? Right of reply, councillor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Council, as I understand it from our briefing a few years ago, it was made very clear that because it's a road reserve, council can just remove structures because they're illegal on the site. It doesn't create a legal precedent or a legal situation where they can sue council. The other issue is that there was mediation done back in 2000 or 2001. And so the owner is fully aware, and even in 2003, the owner was engaged in the process. So it's not new, and I can't see how providing what is effectively a couple of metre strip will meet the needs of the owner, because his pergola and his extension beyond that, if he's the person that's been doing that, is far more expansive than just the narrow strip which council is offering. Has there been any discussion with the owner as to whether that's acceptable to the owner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, both Mr. Ellis and myself met with the owner on site and discussed all these matters with them. Went through the past history. I wouldn't say they're happy with our solution, but the next step is to see whether they will agree to it. They said there seemed to be some general acceptance that something needed to happen, and they want to put it to bed as well and finalise the matter. But there's nothing to say that they're going to accept this proposal, but I think there's more of a chance with this than.
Well, that is a very important point, I think, Mr. Mayor, is that there is no certainty that a decision to lease will achieve any outcome. It certainly won't deliver to the property owner the extent of access that they currently have. And as I said before, I think it's a real precedent that we're setting that will reward encroachment rather than deter it. And I think council needs to stand strong on this issue. The fact that it is associated or adjacent to such an important location, we need to be sending a very clear message to make sure that people are aware that council requires its land to be available to the broader public, not for just individual personal use. So I believe this is the way to go forward. So I put the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Williams. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That? I'll do that again. All those in favour? Against? That is lost. Councillors, do we have a motion to move this item forward?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation in the paper.
Thank you, councillor Vergara. Seconder? Seconded, councillor Kassab. Any discussion, councillor?
No, as I said, that's the ideal solution. It's been a problem for 24 years. It is a Gordian knot. It's understandable. We haven't got legal advice that would be successful if we went to court, either as the applicant or the respondent. We do need to deal with it, save as much of that bushland as we can, and unfortunately, this seems like the only option. But there is option. If the lease isn't pursued or agreed to, then you're left with no alternative, and then Councillor Williams' first course of action becomes what you have to do. And that's what I'd expect we'd do if we didn't get a lease.
Yes, thank you, councillor. Any speakers against the motion? Councillor Williams.
For all the reason I spoke for my motion that I put, Mr. Mayor. But again, I do stress that we are getting into dangerous territory here, in my opinion, that we are opening up opportunities for people that have developed encroachments into public spaces. And as I said before, there are numerous examples of this throughout the municipality. And it is time for council to act on it so that we deter any future people thinking that this is the norm and this is what they can do. I think the landholder over the years and any subsequent landholder during that period would have been aware of council's concerns in relation to this. And as I said before, setting aside a couple of metres will not meet the needs of the extent of previous encroachment. So I think it really, as I say, it is setting an example that really serves no purpose to anybody. It doesn't serve, as I can see it, the purpose of the landholder, and it doesn't serve the purpose and the interests of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I will just say, my understanding is that the current owner was not the party that encroached. It's been that way for 2 decades, and he's not, as I understand it, owned the house for that period. He's in his discussions with the general manager, that has been raised that these were not encroachments that he had developed. That is, and I'd have just the general manager confirm that.
I think that's correct. And
Yes.
just the pergola may have had some work done on it, but
Yeah, okay. Councillor Tanus-Lehmann.
I've just got a question through you,
Yes.
General Manager. You've just, I think you've confirmed that there's been a couple of alterations done, and the current landowner, how long have they been in the property for?
Jeff would know that. I'm saying 10.
And have they conducted any of the work that's been not on their land?
I think they may have done some work on the pergola, but that's.
And they're aware that they were in breach of land that was not.
I couldn't answer that because I don't know what was there, what structure was there. It may have just been repairing what was there, but so I can't really say whether they obviously know they had encroachments. So that's,
They knew it?
Well, yeah, I think so. Well, because we've been taking it up with the owners for quite many years, so I imagine they did.
Through you, Mayor, my discussions with them a while ago was they bought it this way. They bought all the encroachments. They bought the property with the encroachments.
Can I ask, just hold on, just on that, with all due respect, that they buy it, there's a survey,
Yeah.
and it tells you where the boundary stops and starts. So how can there be a survey as part of the sale with a property that goes outside the survey? So again, I'm not a lawyer,
Yeah.
but there's common sense here.
Yeah.
So why didn't the owner turn around and say, well, I don't, all the lawyers turn around and said the survey is not matching what we've seen?
It's common. A lot of properties, a lot of structures overlap other properties, adjoining properties. Sometimes
this is not overlapping. This is a deliberate attempt to get outside of the boundary. By the previous landowner. By the previous.
I don't want to malign the current owner.
No, by all means. I don't know who the current. I don't know who they are. They could be Eddie Marbo. I don't care. I want to know that if the current landowner, if they decide to sell the property, what happens and how do they define where the boundary is?
The only way that they can do that is if they have either an enforcement action that goes back to their title boundary, or whether they would sell the land with a lease. So the only way to again bring this matter to a close is either lease the land or enforce legal action. But there really are two options.
But to answer your question about, yes, they would have known the encroachments for them.
Yes.
Yes, because your survey would show if they had got a land survey.
I agree.
And I assume there would have been a land survey attached to the contract, but
Yeah.
I don't know what the sale contract looked like. But yeah, if you had a sale contract with a survey on it, it would clearly show that there were those encroachments. And people buy property like that knowing that they've got to sort it out later on. So.
Yeah, look, I just want to say on record, I'm very pro-development, right? Very. But I'm also about what you can and can't do. And so if you've got an envelope and you buy a block of land in the zoning and you stay within that envelope, then you do what you've got to do. You buy a block of land and you decide to make your own rules, I have a problem with that. You know, the rules are for everybody. So, but thank you for answering those questions for me.
Thank you, councillors. Any speakers for the motion? Against the motion? Right of reply, councillor? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. We now move to item 4.2, road safety plan. We have a number of speakers to this item. The first speaker is Reverend Michael Armstrong. Thank you, Reverend Armstrong. Sorry, we'll just let everyone vacate quickly. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to say on behalf of my parish council, thank you. We've been trying to get a crossing for 10 years to get across that road. Our questions are in regards to where it's located. We're happy to have a crossing, but we just want to know the safety of it. When we applied 10 years ago, we were told that there could not be a crossing in that area because it's too close to that sharp corner, and for safety concerns, cars coming around there, whatever it was, too close, even down the island. So why now can it be moved all the way up close to the corner? That's one of my questions.
Do you want me to answer them in?
You can answer as you go, or whatever
we may as well do that. So the delegations that we used to have to build level crossings were very heavily skewed towards state government control. They needed to approve of all of these crossings. There's been an amendment that allows councils to basically govern where we can put level crossings. So under the old rules, where we had to apply and reapply, and they would have held that objection to that corner. Those rules are gone. Now we have the capacity to do that, and it's going to have to be obviously treated with slowing. But the whole function of this is to slow people down on that corner.
Thank you. Sorry. We understand. I would still say in terms of safety, being close to that corner is a concern for us. I've watched so many people almost get knocked down on that corner. Also for us, we're concerned about noise. A wombat crossing, we know from being near other neighbours, means that all of a sudden you've got cars going da-da, da-da all the night long. And in the midst of a service where we already hear traffic noise, we're concerned that that would add to that. Crossings, great idea. We're worried about noise. That would be a concern.
What does it go again?
Da-da, da-da.
Okay.
Sure it got picked up on this. No. And my last concern is in regards to if the crossing was moved up to the top of the hill, where essentially it's going to be near 39 Alexander Street, as opposed to where it is down below, that is an incline, which I think is actually higher than on the other side of the road if you put it where the island currently is. I could be wrong. I do walk it a lot, but I reckon it's actually steeper on that side. And we have residents very close by who are over 55s and frail, and therefore crossing up that higher hill is my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Armstrong. Is there any questions, councillors? No. Thank you, Reverend Armstrong. We have a second speaker to this item. Jenna Morrow. I can see you through these lovely shades.
Thank you. I just felt that I should come and talk and advocate for my patients as a local business owner, and obviously that we're here to discuss about safety. I have patients from 6 weeks old to over 100, and I have been there 10 years, and 6 weeks ago I accidentally stepped out in front of a car. And thankfully that kind gentleman slowed down, but I do think we do need something. I don't know what that's supposed to exactly look like. And obviously parking in that precinct is really, really important for the shop owners and for everyone. But I do really think an adequate crossing, whether over near the church or closer to Addie Street or 1 or 2. I don't know what the exact way, and I feel like you're doing a whole safety plan all at once, and I don't know if it should be all individualised. But yeah, I definitely felt I had to come because I would feel terrible if anything was to happen to one of my patients. So yeah, I just want them to be safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna. Councillors, any questions of Jenna? Sorry, Councillor Preston.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Jenna, for coming. I agree with your concerns around that corner, and I too have been in that situation crossing to Garibaldi many times. I wonder what your view is about the proposed location of the pedestrian crossing, in the sense that it is just by that corner, and whether or not you would feel safe crossing at that location, necessarily knowing that cars are kind of.
Well, I don't know if cars are even going to appreciate stopping at 2, or yes, how much visibility it needs as to how far away, and whether it needs to be further away from the corner. I'm not sure, because you're right, if someone's coming from a direction and they're unsure and they're not going the right speed, so that is quite close to the corner, but that is where people try to cross. And I mean, I have students that like to go over and get milkshakes, and sometimes their parents might stay for an eye test. And so there really aren't great places for them to cross. And you also don't want them walking out from between cars and not being seen. But yeah, I don't know if it needs to be further down. So I kind of thought, I definitely think something should be addressed, but whether or not the plans, I don't know, in terms of the proposal of where the best place for it to be.
These will be, these are not all funded. I'll put that up front. So we're going to be seeking grant funding, obviously detailed designs done, and they are raised crossings. So cars will. We're hoping to change behaviour, I suppose, is the point, that people will slow down onto that Garibaldi corner coming from both directions. And I think if you're speeding, there's nothing like a raised platform to get you to slow down. Yeah, but thank you. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 4 of the paper. Councillor Bagara.
Can I move the motion with an amendment, please?
You may.
Okay. The amendment I
Have you sent one through? Yes.
Should be.
So it's
All right. I will ask if we can just pull that up. Everyone sends their amendments through. Makes it a bit easier. Okay.
Let me talk to it while
Yeah, if you'd like to maybe read it out, and we'll get it up on screen.
the amendment is to delete recommendation 2 and replace it with number 2, sites 3, 4 and 5. So this is the Garibaldi corner. So adopt in principle the traffic calming design and bring it back to council with a comprehensive place plan for the Garibaldi village prior to construction. I think that then.
Is the motion seconded? Sorry. Councillor Sleeman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. I think we had the same kind of concerns that the speakers had about it being comprehensive, in place, and with the vision for the Garibaldi village in particular. That's my one. I know our local strategic planning instrument says that we need a plan for the Garibaldi village, and one of the key things for that plan was the maintenance, presentation and amenity of the village being a key place on the peninsula. So I do think it's important that we address road safety, but in the context of a plan for that really prominent, key and beautiful part of the peninsula.
Might get my cobblestones eventually. Councillors, is there any speakers against the motion? Councillor Preston.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council was first presented this plan as a bike safety plan, to which the councillors, I think, mostly agreed was not an appropriate coining of the proposal before us, because it's actually more about pedestrian safety, which led us to consider the sites in the business paper tonight. I share the concerns of the speakers, and I agree that we need to address cars travelling around the corner at Garibaldi quickly, managing that with the number of pedestrians that are crossing there, just jaywalking effectively day to day. I don't think I agree with Councillor Vergara's amendment to the motion, in the sense that I agree that we should be, or it would be prudent to defer the consideration of sites 3, 4 and 5 to come up with perhaps a more cohesive plan for that site. And I don't know that two, what do you call them? Humps?
Level crossing.
Level crossing. Wombat crossings. With pedestrian crossings on top are the solution necessarily. To Jenna's point, I don't know that cars will like stopping twice around that corner. And to Reverend Armstrong's point, I don't know that the noise will be great for people attending service. I'm sure there's a better solution. I am not a town planner. I do not know what that solution is, but I'm not convinced by the solution in the business paper tonight. And so I would like council to consider something different at a later time. So I agree with that part of the motion. I also agree with doing the removal of the existing speed hump and replacement of a raised crossing at site 15 down at Woolwich. I have called council in my personal capacity as a resident a number of times over the last 15 years in relation to pedestrians crossing on top of that speed hump, which, as I understand it, is not currently a pedestrian crossing, and how that causes confusion between pedestrians and motor vehicles down there. So I think that this will fix that problem. So I agree with site 15. My other gripe, though, is with site 1's proposal. I know that we do have funding for this, which is quite a shame, but I'm concerned about a few things in relation to pedestrian safety with moving forward with that site proposal. For instance, the way that the current plan is drafted, it would have a car driving right up to Alexandra Street and actually beyond where the current footpath is. And then behind that first car, it would have pedestrians crossing, and then it would have the next car. And I don't think that that's safe, even if, as we've discussed a number of times, that might happen in practice now. It's not necessarily the way that it would work if cars actually just waited for pedestrians to cross at the current footpath. And I think that the visibility by adding in that island thing on the right hand side would be detrimental to cars turning right onto Alexandra Street out of Ferdinand Street. So I'm not convinced equally that pedestrian safety will be adequately addressed at the corner of Ferdinand and Alexandra Street in this proposed plan. And the same with Stanley Road. I think that bringing out the curb there is also potentially unsafe. And I know that this is no longer a bike safety plan, but I am also concerned at the significant narrowing of the road on Alexandra Street at that site, which has obviously a lot going on, particularly at school drop-off and pick-up times, with cyclists added in the mix. Where the road narrows, it's a commonly known fact that having coexistence of bicycles and cars at a narrowing of a road, particularly where there's schools, other pedestrians, church, other things going on, is really dangerous for bicyclists. So I'm not convinced that this plan is the best plan to use the funding towards either for the pedestrian crossing outside Hunters Hill Public School, which is a shame because I would love the federal government to be committing funds to our small municipality that are actually useful and are actually going to address safety concerns that we have for the municipality. But I can't in good conscience agree to what's presented before us in relation to site 1. So I am going to speak against the motion. If the mover of the motion would be amenable to changing the motion so that we defer sites 1, 3, 4 and 5 and just approve site 15 for go ahead, I would be comfortable with that, but as it stands, I will speak against the motion.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillors, any speakers for the motion? Councillor Williams.
Not quite sure we're on for again. I'll have a go.
Throw a 4 in there, Councillor Williams.
I'm very interested in the fact that this is no longer a bike plan driven process. And if I didn't live on Alexandra Street or the Point Road or Woolies Road and lived elsewhere in the municipality, I'd be saying to myself, well, there's a real concentration of traffic measures in one part of the municipality. Why aren't the issues elsewhere in the municipality also being highlighted and addressed? And I think it's important in understanding what this is all about is that it has been designed by an expert in traffic stuff, and council, it's a bit like, this is the bicycle shed syndrome, where we spend an enormous amount of time on something that's not fundamental to our existence. But for me, there is no money for this except for the one up at across the road here. It is all determined on grants, and I don't see that anywhere in the motion. And I think it's important that the community knows that by whatever decision council makes here, it will not take place unless council can secure further grant funding. And if you look at the cost of the grant for the school crossing, I could be corrected, but I think it's about $900,000 for a crossing. So if we're going to do another 3 crossings, that is a very large bill for an outcome that there is some uncertainty in the community. It has been on public exhibition and the community has had a chance. I would be interested to know Reverend Armstrong's view on cobblestones. Noise is an issue. But
I'll get my cobblestones one day. Yeah.
well, George Street?
George Street's good.
Okay. So I agree. I don't think we've done enough in the Garibaldi corner to justify where we're heading with this, because it should be a place-based outcome. And I think early on in the process, there was a plan that was more ambitious and did include more of a place-based outcome. And by that, I mean integration of pedestrians in more than just a crossing, but also changing with road alignment and whatever to accommodate and widening verges and things. So that's why I was confused, Mr. Mayor, as to whether I'm for or against this, because I think we do need traffic calming measures, not only here, but throughout the municipality. I think we need to be very upfront with the community that this will only be done if we can secure grants. And by the example of the pedestrian crossing at the school, these grants are not trivial. They're very large and significant amounts of money. So I think the amended motion is probably the best way of going forward at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. You will be relieved to know, and the community as well, that we are also spending $5 million on the local area traffic management plan at Boronia Park. Councillor Priest.
Mr. Mayor, is it 5 million?
4 million. Sorry, I snuck $1 million in there on you.
2 things. I'd like to ask a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the GM, and then I'd also like to foreshadow a motion.
You may, yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the GM. Nick, is there viably going to be an opportunity in the foreseeable future to establish some sort of a place plan for Garibaldi, which might include pedestrian safety and vehicle safety and cyclist safety?
It's to preempt the GM. That is what the motion gives effect to.
If this motion is passed tonight, we'll enact that and work through that. We've got some staff here that can do that. We may have to get some assistance. And just in relation to the funding, we lodged applications for both the Garibaldi and the Woolwich site on Friday under one of the programs. Not saying we're going to get it, but got to be in it to win it. So, and then if we do win it, we'll bring them back and we'll workshop with councillors to make sure we deliver what they actually want to see at each site.
Are those state-based grants?
Yes.
Whereas the Site 1 grant is a federal.
It's federal, yeah. And a lot of that money, of that 900, has been spent on the consultants doing all the planning as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not 900 to build it, but it's certainly spent a fair bit on consultants today.
So I would like to foreshadow a motion which is the exact same as Councillor Vergara's, but for the inclusion of Site 1.
In the deferral.
I would love not to defer it and just to remove it altogether. Yeah.
That's foreshadowed. Councillors, any speakers for the motion? Against the motion? Right, a reply, councillor. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried with the dissent of Councillor Williams and Prieston. Now move to item 4.3, the Hillman Orchard. We have a number of speakers to this item. The first speaker to this item is Margaret Council, which I assume is Margaret Birch. Sorry. 4.3, sorry, councillor. Margaret Christie, sorry. Margaret Christie. Sorry, it was in there as Margaret Council for some reason on the speakers list.
Yes.
Thank you, Margaret. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, everybody's left. Well, my name is Margaret Christie, and I moved into 42 Alexandra Street in June 1975. So I've been in that house now for 50 years and have been very happy there. We were, my husband, John Birch, who's going to speak to, and myself were on the ground floor of the Vienna project when it came up in 1982, I think. And we were very supportive of community activities to raise money to buy Vienna Cottage as a historic museum for the district. In fact, my son was in primary school and he managed to get a free dinner from Salvadori at Jasper's, as it was then, some of you might remember, and ran around the district saying, would you buy a ticket in a raffle to save Vienna? And there were floods in Venice and people said, no, it's Venice, not Vienna. No, it's Vienna. And anyway, our fundraising didn't have to go that far when the amateur gave the National Trust a lot of money to buy historic places to celebrate their bicentenary in 1988. Then the proposition came up about the Hillman Orchard adjoining it, and it was actually put to us that would we like to buy it, but we thought it was too much money. Then it was $70,000. So the council decided to buy it and restore it as an orchard. And if I remember correctly, his name was John Prentice, who worked at the council then. We're talking in 1984, I suppose. And he came and sat in our living room and talked to us about the proposal, and we went out and he told us where the trees would be, etc., etc. And it was all very amicable and we were very supportive of it. Now, various people said to me, hey, you wait. Well, I've waited. The time has come. There were 7 camphor laurel trees in the orchard then, and 4 of them were taken out to make way for the orchard at the back, towards the back there. and a big one at the front disappeared a few years ago. It was obviously poisoned. When I say a few, within the last 10 years. So in the last 37 years then, we have supported the cottage. I was on the committee for many years. John's been chair for many years. And we participated in not just opening the cottage and showing people through every second Sunday. In those days, it was every Sunday early on. But we also participated in fundraising, education things, having monthly or bi-monthly lectures, displays in the cottage. The lectures got so big that we had to go to the town, to the RSL hall to hold them.
Sorry, Margaret. Extension of time, moved Councillor Preston, seconded Councillor Kassab. All those in favour, against, carried. Thank you.
So we feel that, I'll speak for myself because John's going to speak, that I put an enormous amount of time and energy and thought and all the rest of it into those years since 1988 when the cottage opened and the orchard became the orchard. I should also say that you could argue that perhaps we are I argue that we are beneficiaries of it. We're beneficiaries of the whole project. And so that's one reason we have been so supportive. I'll say that. I might also add that while I was not personally did so much for the fruit trees in the orchard when they were there for all those years, and John will speak about Graham Percival, who looked after it. You will never see, and you wouldn't have seen since 1988, a drink can or a chip paper in that orchard, because that's what I've done. That was my contribution to it. And pull out the odd weeds when they come up to your knees. I'd have to say that I was very shocked to hear about this agenda item tonight, because I didn't know about it. Somebody rang me up yesterday, Sunday, and said, "Did you know this was on the agenda?" No. To remove the 2 remaining camphor laurels from the orchard. I know that it surprises me too that over the years, over the decades, in fact, several times, people who don't live anywhere near the place, some who I don't think have ever even been to the cottage, see that little block of land and think it's only 8 metres wide, it's very small, and say, "Oh, wouldn't that be fun to do this?" and come up with this great idea. And like, excuse me, we've been there. We have been part of that, and wouldn't it be nice if you discussed it with us? And I'd have to voice my particular disappointment with the National Trust, whom I felt went behind our back with the council about this, and that's why we found out tonight. The National Trust, I put my dot points on this card because they sent it to John a few days ago. "Thank you so much for your support this year. Your generosity has made a tangible difference to our conservation efforts." And to add insult to injury, in another mailing to us, to John, came New South Wales Volunteer of the Year Award, Vienna Cottage Volunteer Team. And yet they know that we like those 2 camphor laurels, got no objection to them being trimmed or pruned or whatever, but to be just removed is shocking. Quite frankly, I find it shocking, and I'm shocked, and I'm very, very sad and disappointed. And we're not young, and I'm not happy, Zach. Not happy, Zach. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
So this is an iteration of not happy Jan.
You know very well. And as we came around the corner tonight, I noticed and said, "My goodness, look at the camphor laurels around the club." And I know up in Mary Street, if you took the camphor laurels out of Hunters Hill, it'd be a pretty bare place, and it's getting barer by the day, actually. It's getting barer by the week, I should say. And then people say, "Oh, but they're not native." Well, did you know that jacarandas aren't either? And somebody I said that to actually said to me, "Yes, it'd be good if they could go too." Well, you imagine Hunters Hill without the jacaranda. You imagine Hunters Hill without all those exotics. it wouldn't be the same. So I ask you, councillors, to drop this stupid idea and see if we can maintain what's there.
Thank
In a
you,
bit.
Margaret. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Tanous-Sleeman and then Councillor Priest.
Firstly, I haven't met you, Margaret. I think you're wonderful.
That's very
Big
nice.
common sense. I love it. That's first and foremost. You're a former councillor too.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. Well, thank you, and I love hearing how long you've been here. I think it's amazing.
Yes.
did a beautiful
Well, I've been here longer than I've been in Alexandra Street.
Oh, okay.
I've been 53 years.
Yeah. Through this.
54.
Oh,
Sorry. Go on.
I can't wait to hear John speak too. So I think you're both in trouble, but that's good. My question, more importantly, over the time, how much? I know you feel very
Grieved.
in terms of what's going on, but how many opportunities has come up in terms of what to do with this tree? I mean, do you believe there is no choice that we have at the moment? Has there been consultation with you, and do you feel that you've had a voice? And
Well, I'm not quite sure about what you mean there. If you've been to the orchard, you'll have noticed that this orchard, in inverted commas, you would notice the camphor laurel trees are to the south of the block, and then to the north, right up the end, is a Celtis. But there's a big space in the middle that was not shaded by anything, and that's where the trees grew, the fruit trees, until Graham died in 2018, I think it was, 2018, and there was nobody to look after them. So, see, this is what upsets me too. The council has never looked after the orchard. It's all been done by volunteers. The council would rock up, or council workers would, I suppose, when they're told, would rock up on a little motor mower, you know, one of those ride-ons, and mow it and take off. And that was it. The trees were never watered, sprayed, pruned. You've got to remember, fruit trees are very labour intensive. They need all those things done to them. And it was done by volunteers. And now that's sort of disappeared a bit. And I think if we could get it back to have some more fruit trees there. But the idea that you take out the camphor laurels and then have this great garden, who's going to look after that? Won't be us. Too old. Sorry, did you have a
Councillor
question?
Prieston.
I kind of forgot my question. Sorry, Margaret, but I wanted to know if you're in favour of the removal of the Celtis.
Well, I'm not, but I'm the only one there. I rather like that tree. I call it my Mondrian tree because we saw a film about Mondrian many years ago, and he painted this one tree that looked just like that tree at various stages of its the year, you know, and when that tree loses its leaves, it has a particular look. And at the moment, also, I'd have to say, that tree, not just us, it'd be anybody who comes to the orchard, does hide the view of some of the mansions that have been added on to the little stone cottages in Madeline Street. And when that goes, you'll see mansions.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question was going to be around whether you're concerned with the camphor laurels being weeds and potentially inhibiting the growth of the orchard.
Well, I don't see them as weeds, you see, any more than I see jacarandas as weeds. They're foreign, they're introduced species, yes, I grant you that, but they're a beautiful tree. Absolutely beautiful tree.
I agree.
They just grow very big.
Councillors, any further questions of Margaret? Councillor Williams.
Yes. You mentioned Graham.
Graham Percival.
Yeah. He was a very dear member of the Hunters Hill community.
Mm.
Was it true that in his maintenance of those trees, and it did prove that there was a viable orchard in the back, that he made his famous kumquat jam?
Oh, he did make kumquat jam, and I can remember giving a talk to a dinner we had to raise for the Vienna Cottage back in, I was a councillor, so it was probably 2007 2 or something. And I was talking about the money that had been raised by the cottage, and Graham had raised $500 that year with his jam, and that's what happened every year. And people used to come to our Vienna Christmas fair and to get the jam. That was their motivation. Oh, where's the Vienna jam? And it was wonderful, wonderful fundraising thing.
So is it your opinion that
Mm.
even with the canker trees, you still can have a viable and productive orchard in the area?
Yes, between where that, particularly if that branch that stretches right up north came off, I call that the Kookaburra branch because, sorry, Kookaburras, they love that branch and they come and sit there and chat away at me. If you took that off, you'd have more area there then to have as many trees as they had before when you used to get, 50 bottles of jam out of the fruit. They were good days. They were good days.
Margaret,
Thank you,
thank you.
Mayor.
And I can honestly say my biggest qualm when we got approached by the National Trust about this was, what is Margaret and John going to think? We will be in under no illusions, I'm sure, after you and John have spoken about your position on it. But I have thought fairly deeply about
Can I
this.
say, Mr. Mayor, just one thing? The Trust knows what we think because they
No,
brought
I
along
know.
somebody to a meeting of the whole committee. And I tell you, if you think I'm passionate, you should have seen some of the people there. Suzanne Ells went off her brain. It was that people, and there'll be a lot of angst in the community if those trees come down. A lot of angst. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Margaret.
Don't cause us angst, please.
Councillors,
So rather than each have to get up, we can hand the speaker to.
we can do that. John, are you comfortable to go next, or are you okay?
I'll stand up here.
Yes, okay.
He's not good at standing.
John is not on the speakers, but wishes to make a submission, and I'm
Can I just point
very
out
happy
that
to allow it.
every room in our house is 1.8 metres from the Vienna orchard. Every room,
Right.
1.8
I'm
metres.
92 now, and it's not what I used to be.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Now, unfortunately, as you get older, your devices never work for you. My printer wouldn't work for me today, so I had real trouble.
Sorry, I might just say there is a physical copy here, John.
There is a physical copy. John?
Yeah.
Look.
Very good. Thanks very much. Okay. Okay, well, I moved to Huntersville in 1960, and over the past 65 years, I've been involved in a wide range of local, national, and international non-government organisations, of which I've been elected a life member in 7 of those organisations. Soon after arriving in Huntersville, I became involved in a campaign to save the Field of Mars, which Christ Council was proposing to develop as a rubbish tip. We succeeded in saving the park and established an environmental education centre attached to the park. In 1970 was the campaign to save Kelly's Bush, which council wanted to subdivide for residential development. We were able to save the park with a world first green band. I've been a member of the National Trust since 1971 and elected a life member. Since 2003, I've chaired the National Trust Vienna Cottage Management Committee. In 2021, we organised a public meeting in the RSL on the importance of trees. The meeting was stimulated by increasing global temperatures and the loss of tree canopy. The meeting was addressed by Jeff Angel, Director of the Total Environment Centre, and a well-attended meeting included members of the National Trust, the Huntersville Trust, the Huntersville Historical Society, and the Friends of the Field of Mars. A canopy of mature trees has always been a feature of Huntersville. However,
The Vienna Committee has been concerned at the rate they are disappearing, and this was highlighted in an article in the Sydney Morning Herald that reported that Pitt, Warringah, Hornsby, Willoughby, Hunters Hill and Manly local councils have seen the highest percentage loss in their tree canopy in the past 7 years. This was based on research by the Environmental Laboratory 2020 Vision. The tree cover is important to reducing temperatures and air pollution. Outdoor pollution is a silent killer. In Australia, it accounts for more than 2% of the deaths, more than are caused by motor vehicle accidents. In Sydney alone, the costs have been calculated at $4.5 billion annually. Arising from the meeting, the Vienna Cottage Committee in December 2021 resolved to request the Hunters Hill Council to provide information in the council newsletter on the economic, health and climate benefits of trees, to monitor Hunters Hill's tree canopy using satellite imaging. Council adopt a policy increasing the tree canopy in Hunters Hill. Sydney City Council is committed to increasing the tree canopy by 50% by 2030. Council adopt a policy of tree planting on public land. Noting Hunters Hill's heritage as a garden suburb, Council re-establish a Park and Trees and Garden Committee. Make it easy to add trees to the significant tree register. Current development requirements for open space should be modified to limit underground development that precludes tree planting, whilst priority should be given to new planting to trees that are native to the district. Historic exotic planting should be protected to maintain tree canopy. In 2020, the then Planning Minister Rob Stokes made the point that exotic deciduous trees, which have horizontal leaves, provide denser shade than native trees, which have vertical leaves that create open canopies. The Royal Horticultural Society has rebanded weeds as resilient plants and stated that gardeners should stop using the term weeds in a derogatory way. Following the purchase by Council of the Hillman Orchard in 1988 and a deed of trust to restore the property as historic orchard to be known as the Hillman Orchard, the Council cleared the land and planted Seville oranges and lemon trees. From 1988 until his death in 2018, the orchard was maintained by Graham Percival, a Vienna Committee volunteer, who also collected fruit and made jars of Vienna cottage marmalade. Following Graham's death and COVID, no marmalade was produced until 2024, when Susan L., a Vienna cottage volunteer, collected fruit from the 2 remaining orange trees and produced 30 jars of marmalade and a smaller number in 2025. The proposal that removes the camphor laurels in the Hillman Orchard would result in an increased temperature in the orchard and surrounding houses and would conflict with the policy to increase the tree canopy in Hunters Hill. 2 arborists contracted by council have found that the camphor laurels are not a threat to Vienna cottage and have recommended pruning rather than removal. This is the same advice I received from an arborist with regard to 42 Alexander Street. Proposals for the development of the orchard are based on a misunderstanding of the orchard. The Hillman is the site of a historic creek. Much.
Sorry, John. Extension of time move. Councillor Williams, seconded. Councillor Kasab. All those in favour? Against?
Thanks
That is
very
carried
much.
unanimously.
Just about finished.
Yeah.
Yes, the Hillman Orchard is a creek, and there was a bridge across Alexander Street up until the drainage was put in, and you can still see the remains of that bridge, in fact, through there. Following heavy rain, there's still a significant flow of water, which precludes development of gardens, but not orchard trees. So the proposal to put a community garden in was just never a goer. The orchard plantings are north of the camphor laurels, so shading is not a problem. It has been suggested that removing the camphor laurels would create an open space for community events in the front. However, our experience is that the traffic noise precludes such use, which is best in the Vienna garden, which is sheltered from the noise.
Thank you, John. Councillors, any questions of Mr. Birch?
Fall over. Have I got it? Up your walking stick?
Yes.
And to both John and Margaret, there will be the opportunity, obviously, if this is carried, to make your objections through the formal DA process.
I've got a video of the creek.
Margaret, I might get you to table that for the record, but we'll watch the video. Or if you could email it through, that'd be helpful.
Thank you very much. Yes. Any questions?
Any questions, councillors, of John or Margaret? Okay, thank you. Our next speaker on this item is Annette Gallard. Thank you, Annette.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to council on behalf of the Hunters Hill Trust, and these two are a very hard act to follow. The Trust opposes the removal of the camphor laurel trees on Hillman's Orchard. Last year, we were told that the removal of the trees was necessary to prevent damage to Vienna Cottage and to enable the re-establishment of the orchard. We understood we could save Vienna Cottage and establish the orchard, or save the camphor laurel trees, but not both. The expert arborist report demonstrates that this is not right. We oppose the removal of the trees for the following reasons. According to the arborist, the trees are healthy and mature specimens. They require attention to trim one errant root and the lifting of the canopy, but this does not justify their removal. If council is committed to restoring an orchard, a compromise can be reached. Council could re-establish the orchard on the northern part of the site, where there are already at least 3 fruit trees, although it must be said that these have not been maintained for some years and require significant attention. Overshadowing of the northern part of the site does occur, but it's not the camphor laurels that are responsible. There are many trees that are overshadowing. One, the celtis, is planned for removal, and we would not oppose this. But overshadowing of this part of the site is also due to the trees of adjoining owners, a more tricky problem. So not right in the middle of where an orchard would be established, but around the edges. This presents a dilemma for council because any new orchard not only needs abundant sunlight and good soil, and we know from the arborist's report the soil in Hillman's orchard is poor and requires significant work to get it ready for fruit trees, but they also require constant watering, feeding and pruning to be successful. The existing camphor laurels, on the other hand, are already successful in that they provide abundant shade and a pleasant streetscape along Alexandra Street. They are, as the arborist suggests, a significant part of the heritage of Hunters Hill. There's so much that's not included in this submission. What the National Trust's views were when it received the arborist's report, what the cost of tree removal, fruit tree planting and day-to-day maintenance would be versus the cost of leaving the 2 camphor laurels, who would maintain the orchard given that council's only role to date has been to mow the grass, and the results of any consultation with locals and heritage experts. We cannot be confident that if the 2 camphor laurels were removed, they would be replaced by a successful orchard, and unless these questions are answered, we risk losing the trees only for the whole plan to fall apart. For these reasons, we do not support the recommendation.
Thank you, Annette. Councillors, any questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker on this item is Phil Jenkins. Thank you, Phil. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Can I just speak to some points to the address and hand that or table it to the meeting?
Yes, you
Because
can
it
table. Yep.
might shorten it because I don't want to go back necessarily over.
These are the ones you sent through earlier?
So I just want to pick a few points out of that address.
Thank you.
First of all, I've had a close connection with that site from the very beginning back in 1982, when I was the inaugural chair of the Vienna Committee for 10 years. And a lot of these issues about conservation and the trees and everything else were debated at considerable length. The conservation plan that was entered into, and the view taken then is still the same, I think, as John was expressing it and Margaret, and that is these are very significant cultural plantings which were common, camphor laurels, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, in what we now call heritage precincts and suburbs. And we've got a fair smattering of them in Hunters Hill. And of course, they're not popular with some because of the roots, but these are an integral part, and that's in the report of one of the arborists. It's an essential part of the heritage values of the orchard. They're not just kind of a species that shouldn't be there, in a sense. They are significant trees to the streetscape itself and to the culture and heritage values of the orchard. The camphor laurels, again from the reports, are over 70 years old. They are, as stated, healthy. And the root system for the last report that was done indicated that that's not a problem with the cottage. I mean, the National Trust clearly were concerned about whether the roots were going to cause a problem. But you've had that last report of the arborist, and it says, yes, there's one root that can easily be dealt with, and that's the only problem. So there is no problem with roots and the cottage. And the other issue that's really important, I think, to realise, when I first went down to that site in 1982 to try to save the place, there were fruit trees, but the fruit trees were to the back, halfway along to the back going north. That's where they were. The camphor laurels were mature at that stage. And when Graham was looking after them, and I mean, he didn't spend every time and every 6 hours a day there. He just went down every now and then to keep them alive and to make sure that they were healthy. And he did it for a long time. Graham, I think, raised, used to be, Margaret, over 1,000 a year or something. It was a huge sum of money from selling the jam that he made out of that orchard. And so the orchard can be successful. And the light doesn't come. I mean, all this talk about no light into the orchard. The sun and the light comes from the north. It does come through, filters through. I've been down there numerous times. It filters through the big trees up the back.
Sorry, Phil,
Yep.
moved extension of time. Councillor Williams, seconded. Councillor Vergara, all those in favour? Against? That is carried.
So the fruit trees can be grown there. They just need a bit of love and attention. And that can happen now. If you go down there and look at where the sun is, where the shade is underneath those two large camphor laurels. And I've done a bit of walking in my time, and can I tell you that when I took walks during Heritage Week through Hunters Hill and generally, it is an oasis in summer especially, but also winter, because you get real cool shade underneath those camphor laurels. And for walkers, visitors and the like, that's a godsend in summer. To take those out not only would destroy the street trees and be a kind of cushion to some of the surrounding buildings, it would be a serious impact on the cultural values of the orchard itself. Just one legal thing, I mean, it wouldn't escape me without raising, Mr Mayor, a legal issue with all the lawyers around this table.
Now, so.
Yeah, that's right, with all the lawyers around this table. I actually drafted the trust document that became the trust document signed by the council and the Hillmans that they bought the property from. Half of the monies we got from the Heritage Office, 40,000 or thereabouts. 40,000 was put in by the council to buy the cottage. And the document itself was that the council holds it on trust for the benefit of the people of Hunters Hill as an historic orchard and park, and must consult with the National Trust in relation to its management. Now, if you go ahead tonight and make a decision to put before the local planning panel a DA recommending that with the recommendation that you've got there, that they come out. If you haven't sat down with the National Trust in the last, 6 weeks or something since you've got that second arbitrist report, and go ahead without consulting contractually with the National Trust about it as to what their view is, then are you not running into trouble when you get to the local planning panel, where the lawyers there will be saying, well, where did you consult? Who did you consult with? Did you consult with Vienna Committee? Did you consult with the National Trust? Did you consult with the Heritage Council because it's state heritage listed? Did you consult with the community? Well, most people don't know what you're doing on this at the moment in Hunters Hill tonight. There's enough lawyers around this table to know that the prudent thing would be to really go back and consult properly with all those people before you make any decision to send this off to the LPP.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Just so that we're crystal clear, this has the initiation for the request for the tree removals, as I understand it, has come directly from the National Trust. It's them that want the Camp Laurels gone. So that consultation's been ongoing for a long time. They are in favour of the restoration of the orchard, and they're in favour of the removal of the Camp Laurels. Sorry. So I might just throw over to Annie to for a second, or the General Manager to run through what's happened to date. But this fairly iterative process was begun with that request. Council would like to, as I understand it, and has raised funds towards restoring the orchard. We're not opposed to planting non-invasive trees as replacements. We're not opposed to doing a whole lot of things. The consultation piece, and I will probably disagree with you, and you will disagree with me about consultation to consult. This process is consultative because we can go through the DA, we can go through the consultation, through the appropriate channels, gather submissions, form a full view, and take it to the panel. So that is the consultation process. So we're not going to consult to consult. And that's where we have in the past tied ourselves up in knots. But I will just let the Director, or if the General Manager would like to make some commentary before the Director.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you everyone who's spoken tonight about the Camp Laurels and Hillman Orchard. I'd also like to just add, yes, I'm slightly scared of Margaret, Christie and John as well. So depending on what the outcome is of tonight, Margaret, I hope we can remain friends through this. But to your point, Phil, we have consulted with the National Trust, not in the last 6 weeks, no, but previous to that, they were the instigators of this proposal to move forward. We've met with them on several occasions here at Council and by a Teams meeting about this particular issue. We've had phone conversations as well and emails on the matter. So we felt that it was really important to bring it to a head considering those negotiations and conversations, hence this report, to ensure that moving forward we have a decision. We have funds in trust from both the National Trust and from the Rotary Club, and we really would like to use those to reinstate the orchard in some way, shape or form, dependent on the outcome of this evening. I'm sure there's an avenue for us to come to an arrangement where we have a level of comfort over what can happen into the future with the orchard itself. So I am comfortable with the comms up to this point in time, and obviously through a DA process there would be a lot more engagement as well.
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Just before we go, General Manager, did you want to make any commentary, or
Oh,
I'll just throw back to
commentary
questions.
is if council agrees to prepare a development application, it would then go on exhibition and all that consultation would take place. And all those groups would need to be approached and have the ability to make comment. All those comments would then go to the assessing planner, put into their report, and then it'd be up to the panel to make a decision one way or the other, depending on, and there's no guarantee that the planner's going to recommend removal. So they're going to assess it on its merits. So this is a process to step it through and see where it comes out. But there's certainly all the community engagement will happen during the development application process, which is where it should be, instead of having, as the Mayor said, 2 lots of community engagement, because it doesn't help anyone.
Well, can I answer that in this way again, slowly?
Sorry, answer which part?
Well, about the consulting. This is not the ordinary council consultation that you're talking about, where you consult in the process comes out. I'm saying the actual contractual document, a trust document that you have that must guide you in law, says that you hold the orchard on trust for the people of Hunters Hill, and you must consult, read the terms, must consult with the National Trust in relation to it. Forget about your consultation processing. You must do that. So you haven't, as I understand it, and I want you to correct this, my understanding is that you haven't gone back to the National Trust. You haven't spoken by the fact that their fears of having roots and things go across underneath the cottage, which is why they came to you, is not there. That last report that's come has ruled that out. And you haven't gone back, as you're obliged to do under the contract or trust document or deed.
Sorry, Phil, I'm going to have to disagree with you there again.
Well, please get some advice about it.
Phil, the process that we're going through now was instigated by the National Trust. They are the ones that have advocated to council, who has management of the site, to remove the trees. So
that's not correct.
So the idea that the National Trust has not been consulted, when this is effectively their proposal to remove the trees, and I will disagree with you that the arborist report says that there's no danger. There is danger, and the National Trust, who are the custodians of the heritage item, have a long-running issue with the potential damage to that site from the camphor laurels. I don't accept that we haven't consulted with the Trust, and I think the General Manager's made it quite clear that we have a process to consult with the community. So happy to agree to disagree, but I think that the idea that the National Trust is somehow, not very involved in this process. They're the ones that have led this process to date. So on that, sorry, Phil, I will ask councillors if they have any more questions of Mr. Jenkins. Thank you, Phil. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 12. Councillor Preston.
I'm on my.
I'm sorry.
I want to ask a question. We don't have a motion yet.
Just a question.
Yes.
In relation to the 2 camphor laurels in the orchard, can I just confirm, because I'm looking on the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries website, and I'm on Weedwise, and it says that the camphor laurel is a highly invasive evergreen tree that has a tendency to form single species communities and exclude most other desirable native vegetation. And not being an arborist myself, I just want to clarify, I'm not sure who to direct my question to, but does the existence of these 2 camphor laurels, presumably the existence of the 2 camphor laurels, precludes the orchard from flourishing in the true sense of the word orchard, right? So I just want to confirm through you, Mr. Mayor, to either Annie or the General Manager, is that the case? And is that not the basis for the National Trust's recommendation to remove these 2 trees? I'm a bit confused.
The principal objection that the Trust has is that the prospective damage to their heritage item,
Yes.
both through invasive roots and through the canopy above. That's their principal concern. They are also supportive of the restoration of the orchard, but I think that it's fair to say that's probably secondary in their concerns. But I'll let the general manager and the director.
I'm not sure whether myself or any can answer that question, given that's not my skill set, arborist, but yeah, there's no doubt that camphor laurels are an invasive tree. They certainly they do tend to remove everything else around them. So that getting that orchard back, and I heard that the soil's not very good to be able to improve the soil and so forth. The removal of those trees would allow that to occur. But that's all part of the development application process to assess all those things.
Can I ask a second question?
You can. Councillor Williams is on his feet, but yes, if it's quick.
Super quick. Would it be possible to viable to include in the motion, just say, to ensure that council replaces, if the removal of the camphor laurels is approved, to replace those 2 trees elsewhere in the municipality, 2 trees of the same size that are not weeds or noxious species?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it would have to be part of any application to replace those trees with substantially more trees in another location to replace the canopy. Obviously, it wouldn't be as big, but they certainly would. They need
in that location,
or in that location,
if need,
depending on the final master plan for the orchard. But yes, you do have to replace the trees.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
We don't. No. Councillor Williams is about to move on. I'm guessing. Otherwise, he's been stretching for a while.
Can I move on?
Yes, you may move a motion, Councillor Williams.
I haven't had time to prepare it because I've listened with great intent to our residents here tonight. But it's 4 parts. First part is the council receive and note the report. Pretty standard.
Yes.
The second part, not to proceed with the removal of the camphor laurel, the 2 camphor laurels, but to do minor pruning in accordance with the arborist report. Are you going too fast?
We flash it up.
We might need to check it up on the screen. Sorry. Yes. Sorry, Councillor. Keep going.
Point 3, council proceed to design a viable orchard in the northern sector. And 4, a report be brought back to council following there you go. I'll look at my scroll. Following consultation. I think that's what it says. But anyway, a report be brought back to council, full stop.
And the CELTAs?
Following consideration of the design.
And the CELTA stays?
Well,
Very slickly left out of the motion, Councillor Williams. Yeah.
Well, in the spirit of getting this through, I would say yes, you can include in another point, point 5, that the CELTAs be removed.
Okay. Have we captured that appropriately?
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry, Councillor Preston.
I just noticed that in the draft minutes above, it says that the extension of time granted was passed unanimously, and that's not true.
No, I noted your I noted your vote. Councillor, yes. Councillor, yeah, sorry. Councillor Williams, we need a development application for any pruning and for the removal of the celtus as well. So you can't not lodge a DA for any of this.
But I'm not suggesting that we don't lodge a DA, I'm just suggesting that we don't remove the trees and we come back to the council with a report following further consideration.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you just change the thing to the council proceed to DA for the pruning for both, so change the removal to pruning of both camphor laurels and the removal of the celtus, which we subject to assessment of local planning.
Stop typing.
Just do that.
I'm happy with that, yeah.
We just changed
If I can get a second.
Sorry. All right. Can I just have
Just have that. Just give it to us, we'll write it out. Yeah. One.
the council receive and note the report? Yes. That council proceed to DA for the pruning of both camphor laurels, so just the change of that word, and the removal of the celtus in the Hillman Orchard, which would require a DA subject to the assessment of local planning panel.
You need to put the pruning in accordance with the arborist report.
In accordance with the arborist report, yep. Don't prune it at the bottom.
And what's to?
Sorry, and sorry, what was the third point, Councillor Williams, before the report be brought back with a plan? What was
In
the
there,
third part?
landscape design for the
Council to proceed to design a viable orchard in the northern sector.
Yeah, okay. The council proceed to design a viable orchard in the northern
sector.
Northern part of the site.
No, this is all right.
Councillor Prieston, it's not all wrong because it's not your motion. And we're still talking.
A further report before back to council following the outcome of it, and then outlining a landscape design for the reset of the orchard.
Does council not proceed?
Council
No, it's not wrong.
proceed to DA for the removal, for the pruning.
All that needs to happen is two.
Councillor Prieston, please. Councillor Prieston, please just let the staff get this right.
Just need to amend
Councillor Prieston, I will not ask again. Sorry, this is, the staff are going to do this. They don't need your assistance. Sorry, pruning in yes. Pruning in alignment with the
Accordance, yes. Accordance.
Yep. That a further report be brought back to council or the outcome of the further report be brought back to council with a viable orchard in the northern.
With the design.
With the design.
For a viable, don't need the word viable, design for a productive orchard in the northern part of the site.
Nice.
SITE.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience, councillors. Need to get these things right. Councillors, is there a seconder? Seconded, councillor Vergara.
Mr Mayor, could you read it out, please? Because there's
Yes,
quite a bit of
the
words
council
missing
receive
there.
and note the report. That council proceed to a DA for the pruning of both camphor laurels in accordance with the arborist report and the removal of the celtis in the Hillman orchard with, which will require a DA and be subject to the assessment by the local planning panel, that a further report be brought back to council with a design for a productive orchard in the northern portion of the site. Yes, seconded. Councillor Williams, wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I won't take too much time because our residents have spoken with a great deal of passion and clarity as to their views, and those views are shared by me in terms of the importance of this location and site. And I think we can get a win-win outcome, if you can use that hackneyed term, where we have a strong orchard, and that's been proven over the years with the camphor laurels there, with the loving care of Graham Percival, and it can be very productive and has produced quite a lot of produce, which has been highly sought after. So we can get both. We can have both. And the issue about the camphor laurel trees, and we can quote endlessly on its status, their status or recognition as an invasive species. But we're not talking about an open paddock here. We're not talking about in the north coast of New South Wales where they're rampant. We're talking about an urban area where these trees can be maintained and controlled and do provide an enormous benefit to our community. And I am always stating that I'm concerned about the loss of our canopy cover in this municipality. And I don't want council to be part of that. I think we do have two trees here that do form a very important role and have been recognised over many years for that role, and I think we should retain them. Equally important is that if this thing was started by the National Trust, consideration of this, then their concerns have now been addressed. It is clear from the reports that the roots are not causing problems and the trees can live in harmony with the cottage. So it is my view that we can respect the wishes of the residents as well as ensuring that we retain our canopy cover and still achieve the outcome which Rotary have contributed significantly to, and their expectation that we'll do something with the orchard. We don't spend all this money removing the camphor laurels, which I think is about $45,000-$50,000. There'll be a very healthy amount of money available for council in conjunction with the trust and with the residents to produce a very viable and healthy and productive orchard. And that will return it back to its grassroots and why the site is there. So that's why I've put this motion, and I thank council for helping get it to a point which I hope all councillors can accept.
Thank you, councillor Williams. Councillor Kassab, question?
Yeah. I just wanted to check, as councillor Williams alluded to, the removal of the trees was around 50,000. So I just want to check, do we have, I don't see it in the report, a price for the pruning and the crown uplift of the camphor laurels?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillor Kassab. So in terms of costs, removal of the celtis is approximately $9,000. Pruning of the both camphor laurels is $15,000 to $20,000. And a landscape design plan for that second half will be $3,720. The reason for the heavy cost of the pruning is because there will need to be traffic control and a cherry picker to do that. Does that answer your question, councillor Kassab?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Councillors, any further discussion on this item? Speaker against? Question, councillor Preston, speaker 4. Councillor Preston.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm allowed to speak now. That's good. I am in favour of this amended motion. I look forward to receiving a report being brought back to council to show us how we can have the orchard reinstated, because I do think that's a really important venture for the National Trust and for council collaboratively. And I want to thank Annie for all her work in investigating all of the different options, because I know it's been quite an iterative process over many, many years. I too am disappointed in the National Trust. I think they've come to us with different ideas and different offerings at different points in time, and then reneged on certain things and then requested and demanded others. So I think it's been really difficult for council to come to a cohesive resolution, and one that appeases our community members, but also the National Trust as a big stakeholder of the site, obviously. 26 years ago, I sat in the Hillman Orchard underneath those camphor laurels to eat my lunch on a school excursion with Hunters Hill Public School. And we used to do a bit of gardening around the Hillman Orchard, throughout the year. And so for me, the camphor laurels represent almost a sentimental part of the land. So I'm torn, and it's quite emotional to hear, Margaret and John speaking about these two trees with such passion, because I understand, and they do form the landscape of the site. However, I'm not an arborist, and I don't know what the true effect is of having two weeds on the site that aren't well maintained and are expensive to upkeep. So I am torn, although I do think that this amended motion strikes a good balance, and hopefully we can come to a good resolution where we maintain the tree canopy, maintain the site, and reinstate the orchard for the community.
Thank you, councillor Preston. Any speakers for the against the motion? For the motion? Right of reply, councillor Williams.
No, I've spoken enough.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Councillors, we move to item 4.4, updated fees and charges. We have a recommendation on page 50 of the report. Any move, councillor Williams, seconded? Okay. Thank you, John and Margaret. And the takeout from tonight is that the council is still fearful of you. That's good. Have a very Merry Christmas. That's all right. Councillor Williams moved that motion, seconded. Councillor Kassab, any discussion? If not, put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I'll do that again. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Unanimous. Item 4.5, delegations over the Christmas period. There is a recommendation on page 54.
I rang up council today to ask if I was able to make a submission tonight, and they said yes, I was on the list.
Yes,
Not on the list.
you are. You're Marjorie.
Yeah. Oh, my apologies. I thought it was the end of that section.
No.
My apologies.
We will move your item forward. We just have one more speaker, and then I'll move your item early if I can, if the councillors agree with me. 4.5 delegations over Christmas. Move councillor Kassab, seconded councillor Sleeman. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.6. We have a speaker to this item, Reverend Armstrong. And apologies, Marjorie, we'll get to you next. Reverend Armstrong, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I want to begin by acknowledging, since I was last here, there have been further deaths of young people across our community. I know it's affected many councillors here, and that this Christmas will be hard for many families as they sit around tables with empty seats. And my parish continues to pray for those and support those families we're connected with, and share deep concern for many, including you in this room. I want to thank the council staff for their continued efforts to seek ways to find support for our young people, and to you, councillors, for your impassioned and passionate responses. My initial desire in writing to you a long time ago was to kick off a process where council might support that which was already in place and had evidence to be working. What's now proposed is a pilot program. My concerns about this are our schools, all of them, already have a really full curriculum. And to add another activity on top seems to be something of an unnecessary burden. Our schools, as the report indicates, are all trying to also do programs that they found that work already. And Lighton and Man Cave were one of the suggestions I put forward, and most seem to be doing something like that. I don't think they need to add another pilot program. The program suggests targets for young people who are in years 6 and 7. All our schools have really good transition programs in Hunters Hill, all of our high schools. I may be very wrong, but I don't believe that that is what's actually needed and what was intended originally. The group that I think needs the most effort or face-to-face and peer-to-peer support, not webinars, not online, are the cohort from years 8 to 11 in our high schools, especially years 9 and 10. My final concern is that council, with a lack of resources and no dedicated youth staff, are proposing to run and coordinate another program. And I fear that it won't contribute to the needs of our young people, perhaps even take away from precious time given to other programs. My initial request, as I said, was for council not to start a program, but to support those which are already in place in our community, in our schools. So I have another proposal for you tonight. That in similar way to that you actually have a community grants process, you might use your funds to establish a high school wellness grants program. I believe that this would actually be a simpler approach. It would allow all schools in our area to apply, P&Cs and other bodies. They would all try to actually receive this funding or choose not to. They would need to apply to demonstrate to council how they would use the funds in each program, which I think meets objectives of council. It allows council to be an investor and be fair and diligent in how it uses its community funds, but importantly, to still actually not stretch yourselves to do things that you can't do, to bite off more than you can chew, or take energy away from where it should be. I believe very strongly in the principle that those who are on the ground know the very best place to invest the funds. So I also believe that if council are willing, there would be community support behind this, people who would be willing to throw funds into the pot.
Sorry, councillors, move an extension of time. Councillor Preston, seconded Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Another minute. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Reverend Armstrong.
This is a significant issue, and while I admire council's attempts to address it, I think it's beyond your ability. And so I ask you to consider a supportive approach at this time, perhaps establishing a grant scheme that allows others to just get on with the work. But in the future, I do hope and pray that this council would be a significant contributor and leader, taking up the initial idea of having a youth worker, and as the report starts to explore, looking at so many other ways in which young people could be supported across our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Armstrong. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Vergara.
Have you spoken to any of the principals or headmasters of the schools?
No, I've not, but I've spoken to various P&Cs.
I spoke to the headmaster at St Joseph's College and the head of student wellbeing and the director of students, and their quote experience is that what council has proposed is a multi-dimensional approach that, in their experience, complements rather than encroaches on school programs. That's the on the ground view.
Take that on board. Absolutely.
Reverend Armstrong, I appreciate the request. I do wonder whether that could be addressed directly with the current grants programs that we have in place. What we tend to have, or we've had for the last 2 years, which gave rise to some of these conversations, is a deficit in people actually making the applications. Maybe that is council needing to reach out to the P&Cs a bit more actively during that process. But I think we could actually, without creating a secondary program, we could actually, and I'm actually very supportive of what Annie's put together and has put a lot of work into this. But I suppose where I'd struggle putting a secondary program in place is that we are undersubscribed with our grants program. And I think that we could actually stopgap this by just getting an application in
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I think actually the grants program is actually very difficult to respond to because it's $1,500. That's it. These programs cost $9,000-$10,000 per school. So that means that when we put an application forward, you have to find another $8,500 to try and fund it. So you're actually trying to apply for something that you know you've got to do a lot more work to get to. So you would need to increase the value of that scheme currently significantly to do it for one school, never mind a multi-school approach.
I'll take that on board, absolutely. Councillors, any other questions of Reverend Armstrong?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 56 of the report. Moved Councillor Kassab, seconded Councillor Vergara. Any discussion, Councillor Kassab?
Yes, I just have two questions, please, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
In the report, obviously, it mentions Gotcha for Life, and I just wanted to check what the cost is associated with running the programs through Gotcha for Life.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kassab. The cost of the program would be for both the first half of 2026 and the second half would be $2,000 plus incidentals, which would push it up to about $3,000. Council has allocated $9,000 in its budget to youth programs with an additional $5,000 from the residual community grants program. I'll clarify that with you.
Thank you. Councillor Kassab.
Just to clarify, is there a plan for how the remaining funds would be used at this stage or
not at this stage?
Thank you.
Councillor Vergara, question?
Yes, question. I'll let Councillor Kassab speak to motion, but my question, Annie, is this program, it's for that transition this year, but the idea is to judge the needs in the community and you can change the program, evolve, it can be responsive and sustainable. So it could be for graduates, it could be for year 10, it could be for year 11. So, and you could do 2 programs a year, which are either end of the spectrum, or even primary school, or parents, or community group leaders to help with mental. Is that the intention of the program? It's not
very correct. Yeah, Councillor Vergara. So with the pilot program, in that it is a pilot program, it is to sense check this program in conjunction with experts who have been through this before, which is Gotcha for Life. They firmly believe that it is a very good target market to get the kids transitioning out of year 6. A lot of them do struggle to find their feet in high school with a brand new cohort and peers. Depending on the success of that program, we could continue to roll that out, or we could just recheck and look at other alternatives that we've just spoken to. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Any speakers for the motion? Do you wish to speak to the motion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Youth mental health and suicide prevention remain critical issues demanding focus, sustained and compassionate attention. Through the establishment of the Youth Mental Health Pilot Program, Council is taking meaningful steps to support the young people of Hunters Hill. Last Wednesday's Run for Logan was a powerful testament to the urgent need for initiatives such as this. This event saw 2 young men, Luke Broad and Nicholas Peters, run 100 kilometres in honour of their late friend and St Joseph's College alumni, Johannes Logan. Throughout the day, they were joined by 40 to 50 other runners, collectively raising funds and awareness for men's mental health. I spent several hours on the sidelines, and the emotion, resilience and solidarity displayed by these young men was palpable. Their commitment underscored the importance of opening conversations earlier, ensuring that young voices are truly heard and taking action that can drive genuine and lasting change. I also send my deepest condolences to Luke, Nick, Andrew, Johannes's father, and all those who knew and loved him. Regardless of the school a young person attends, this program will provide access to vital, potentially life-saving education. It will begin with students transitioning from year 6 to year 7, but its reach will not end there. Over time, this initiative has the capacity to educate and empower students of all ages, creating real and enduring impact. I extend my sincere congratulations to Annie for her dedication and leadership on this project. I'm confident the results of her work will be meaningful and far-reaching. I look forward to attending some of the sessions to witness the program's impact firsthand and to hearing directly from the students whose lives it will undoubtedly touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kassab. Any speakers against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Vergara.
Johannes died by suicide on the 10th of November. On the 10th of December, Luke Braun, supported by families of Hunters Hill and the Hunters Hill St Joseph's College community, had raised over $30,000 for men's health, in particular, men's mental health and suicide prevention. That would fund these programs 3 times over. The act and spirit of Luke and the families and young men of the Hunters Hill St Joseph College community is a shining example of the multidisciplinary, multifaceted approach that is needed to effectively address youth mental health in our local community. We all need to contribute. Everybody needs to play a part. Private citizens, parents, community groups, school communities, and local government. Like Luke did, everybody needs to ask, what can I do? What can we do to help ourselves, to help our mates, to help our community address youth mental health issues? When council asks itself that question, it must consider the guiding principles in the Local Government Act, and it must ask, 1, do the efforts of council reflect the needs and priorities of the broader community? 2, do the efforts provide the best value for all residents and ratepayers? 3, are the efforts inclusive? And 4, is council acting fairly, without bias, and the interests of the local community? The Youth Mental Health Pilot Program and the overall youth strategy, I am pleased to say, now allow council to answer those questions positively. I commend the General Manager and Director Community and Customer Service on developing a way to deliver these important and responsive services to the Hunters Hill community in a way that is fair, inclusive, sustainable, and capable of being assessed against quality standards to pursue positive outcomes.
Thank you, Councillor Megara. Any speakers against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Williams.
Again, fence sitting, but this is such an important issue, I won't stand in the way of some progress, and I do compliment the staff on coming forward with a fairly detailed process. However, I think back to previous times, this council had a community services director who had within that portfolio a youth worker. Council used to have direct expertise and support for youth in our community. That's lacking at the moment. And again, as I raised last time, it does concern me as we hear the progression of our youth taking that unthinkable decision that we're still running a pilot program. And we're only funding it on the basis of $9,000, where we're spending, what is it, $82,000 on a consultant on a planning proposal in Ladesville. I still think our priorities are wrong in how we're funding this issue. I do commend the staff, as I've said, for taking this forward. But personally, a pilot program is not what we need. We need direct and clear action at this point. There must be very clear guidelines and guidance that can be found from bigger councils that have dedicated or expertise. So I would, as I say, I will support the motion, but it does concern me that having a pilot program is not really tackling the issue head on. We're going to be another 12 or 18 months, 2 years before we actually get to the point that we're going to really hit this issue with all our capacity. So, yeah, I just find it disappointing that we can't immediately respond to our youth to give them the opportunities to understand their place in life and to nurture their well-being. Council surely can find more money for this. And I think Councillor Lane's motion to have a youth officer is fundamental in our ability to progress this issue. We need to find those funds within this massive restructuring program which Council is going through with its staff.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillors, any further discussion on this item? If not, right, a reply, Councillor Cassar.
I just want to make one point, why this program and why this is the best first step, because yes, it is a pilot program. However, as per the timeline in the paper, quite clearly outlines that there will be programs that will be put forward and take place in 2026. And so we will start making an impact and making a difference. And it's a pilot because it's for us, as the director mentioned earlier, for us to check where the need is and to reassess the need and to ensure that we're servicing the right cohort, or however you want to call it, to ensure that we're getting the services out to the young people that really need it. So I just think it's important to note that we will start making a difference and that in 2026 there are programs that will take place.
Thank you, Councillor Cassard. That concludes debate. All those in favour of the motion? Against? That is carried unanimously. Councillors, can I get a motion to move item 4.12 forward? Move Councillor Garr, second to Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. I apologise, Marjorie, that you've had to sit there very patiently. I'll invite you to the lectern to speak for 3 minutes. 4.12.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just as an anecdote, 60 years ago, I used to jump the fence at the orchard and help ourselves to apples and oranges, and yeah, so that's just by way of some history.
And will again.
Pardon?
And you will again now.
Oh, I'll jump it even higher. Okay. Back to this. Far more important events have taken place in my life since lodging this request to council. The minute's silence tonight was dignified. Thank you, Reverend. And as a member, I'm sorry, I put my head together. And as a member of the Australian Jewish community, I thank you sincerely. Shana, can you read this for me? I'm so sorry. Okay, can you read that?
Where are we up to?
Up to you.
Let us all remember all people, Jewish and non-Jewish, who have died or been injured. We are fortunate to live in a country supported by brave and compassionate people, police, paramedics, firefighters, doctors, nurses, counsellors, cleaners, food service staff, interfaith leaders, and ordinary civilians who step forward so bravely without hesitation. I thank them all.
Thanks. That's good. Yep, I think I'm okay now. Yep. It's been a hard day. Councillors, now I'm turning to the DA. I might cry over this. Our submission and subsequent emails are on record, so I will not go through every point this evening. My family and I are deeply concerned about the decision Council has made to approve the development of 37 Woolwich Road. We are not opposed to development. Had we purchased this block ourselves, we too would have built a two-storey home, but not one that causes such significant adverse impacts on its neighbours. In short, this development occupies the full extent of the legally permitted building envelope and affects our amenity in very real ways. Sheer bulk and scale, loss of solar access, loss of privacy, and substantial overshadowing on all our living spaces, and in particular, loss of sunlight on our courtyard and family room, our primary living spaces. It is not a back-to-back, rear-to-rear development. It is a perpendicular one. Not one of our objections appears to have been acted upon, not one. Even a basic request to identify the location of the air conditioning units was not addressed. We can't find these units on the plan. Neither were our requests for opaque glass on windows in direct line to our courtyard, which is only 6 metres away from an 8.5 metre two-storey dwelling. Furthermore, Mr. Tobin emailed me to say that a site meeting would be forthcoming for all owners who had objected. A site meeting was only conducted at my property and only after numerous requests. There was no site meeting for all the other objectors. Why? The question is, why? In fact, councillors, we have many questions, but tonight I raised just one due to time. Shadow diagrams and overshadowing. Why does council consider the developer's shadow diagrams to be correct? The independent shadow diagram specialist we engaged at a cost of $4,900 dispute the accuracy. In their professional assessment, i.e. the people we engaged, the developer's diagrams are both 1, inaccurate, 2, misleading. So, why has council approved plans with inaccurate and misleading shadow diagrams? There are many other issues.
Sorry, Marjorie, move extension of time. Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Sleeman. All those in favour? Against, that is carried unanimously.
Time does not permit raising them. But as previously said, they are all on record. Councillors, we want answers to why the council thinks their shadow diagrams are correct. Councillors, we are simply asking for accuracy, transparency and fairness in the assessment process. Based on the material before us, it is difficult to see how this decision reflects those principles. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Marjorie. If you just want to stay there for a moment, councillors, any questions? I might just get the director or the general manager the opportunity to respond to some of your queries. If you're okay.
Yeah. I'd like to respond. Just in short, this application was dealt with in detail. There was also, I reviewed it myself, so there was 2 planners considering this application. It's a 31-page report, and in the report it highlights all the issues raised. The site inspections were held to the subject site adjoining, and also all the objectors received. So also inspection was held on the further adjoining property that lodged a submission. So all those persons that lodged submissions, in particular, they were inspected by the assessment officer dealing with this application. The shadow diagrams consideration were dealt in detail and also highlighted in the report in accordance with the DCP provisions of the 3-hour turnaround times with regard to shadows. So I believe that the assessment was done in accordance with Council's LEP and the DCP provisions, and also highlighted with regard to distances away and privacy issues, and also shadows cast by existing structures on the adjoining site and also the subject site, and further would create those shadows which have a current impact. Not forgetting that the shadow diagrams are held at the worst time of the year, 21st of June at 3 o'clock and at 12 o'clock. So shadows move, as we all know. So in consideration of our current controls and also the court outcomes with regard to shadows, we believe we assessed the application very much in detail, and 2 planning officers considered it, and we did visit the sites.
You only visited one site, not the other 3 objectors.
I'll get that checked, Marjorie. Just on your submission, I suppose need to also clarify that this is just reporting the the delegated authority approvals. Unfortunately, many years ago, the capacity of council, the elected council, to approve or not approve some things was taken off us. Thank you for coming in today. I'll throw through to the other councillors for any questions, but we will check some of those process questions.
Can I just add that
Director.
a copy of the report has been given to the applicant here tonight and also the adjoining owners, explaining the detail of the assessment, pretty open and transparent. Also, further submissions were received during that process were considered, and I just want to highlight that letters or emails received on the 22nd of July, 4th of August, 4th of November, including 26th of October, were all considered in detail and addressed, and I reviewed them myself as well. So peer reviewed by 2 planners to ensure we get it right, but also ensure that it complies with our DCP and the LEP provisions. I know it's a difficult issue for people, but we have to be fair across the board and also fair with regard to our controls. That's why we have controls, and to ensure that persons are allowed to build a 2-storey residence in Hunters Hill.
Councillor Prieston, did you have a question? Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify, this item isn't in the business paper. Is it meant to be, or is it coming up in the next?
I don't believe it would be, because it would be the next in the
Next month.
February
Next month.
meeting, but it was considered and I assume approved based on the objection.
20th of November.
Yeah, I saw the emails. I just wanted to confirm it's not in.
We got to be careful also what we talk about DAs, because council cannot consider DAs, and it's just an explanation tonight.
Yes,
to explain.
Councillor Vergara.
So 2 questions.
Yes.
Number one, Hertzberg referred to the DA applicant as a developer. Is it a developer or it's the homeowner?
It's an applicant, it's an owner of a house. It's
the lot, people who own the lot now.
Yeah, I think it's just a normal.
Because it's not in the paper, that's why the problem. And then
Sorry, it's owner is a simple. It's not a company construction. It's a personal name, so it's just an owner of a property.
Yeah. And then, so when you get 2 reports of 2 experts, how do you resolve the difference of opinion? For example, is there a process where you give the objector's report to the applicant to comment on? Did that happen, or how is that resolved?
So the assessment officer goes on site to view the issues raised by the objectors, standard practice. That is reported and documented in the report. Internally, we as peer review the issues raised or the commentary raised, or double checking what the assessment officer is coming up with.
How do you resolve the 2 conflicting expert views?
Were they conflicting?
No. At certain times, more clarification. If there was conflicting, you have to go out and revisit it or again, or further information. That it needs to be. There's no. It should be joint agreement. Yeah. Conflicting from both, it shouldn't go forward.
Councillor Williams, you had your hand up. Although if it isn't a question, Marjorie, I'm going to let her sit.
Yeah, no, I was just going to raise that same question as to how do you resolve conflict of experts, because experts, by their nature, are very skilled, and they use formulas and models to develop these things. So it's just
precedents and all that.
Yeah, so to me, it's strange that you could get 2 experts saying opposite things, and that was an interesting insight as to how that's resolved by the staff. And I do acknowledge that we have no role in the DA,
Marjorie,
but it's a question.
Marjorie, do you have any?
Look, I understand that. I understand that the councillors don't have a role anymore, but I wanted to ask why your employed staff dispute the shadow diagrams that we had independently assessed, and they have not, in their written application to us, addressed that issue.
I'm going to make sure that before this item comes up in February, that we get that addressed, and I'll get any of those questions circulated to councillors if that's
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
hope you have a okay rest of the Hanukkah. I know it's been a difficult 24 hours. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 115 of the report. Is it moved? Moved, Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Ternouth-Sleeman. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. We now go back to the agenda. Item 4.7, councillors, is there anything that you are burning to speak on? Otherwise, I'm going to suggest that we move these in block. Councillor Williams.
4.10.
4.10 events.
I just have a question.
Yes, councillors, anything else? If not, Councillor Williams, are you comfortable just dealing with that in the block item?
Yep, just see.
Okay, councillors, can I get a motion to move to put items 4.7, Citizen of the Year Awards, 4.8, Footpath Occupation Display Policy, 4.9, Events on Council Land Policy, 4.10, Events for 2026, 4.11, Investments Report as at 30 November, 4.13, Report on Legal Matters, 4.14, Minutes of Clark's Point Reserve, Morts Reserve Plan of Management and Community Advisory Group Meeting, 4.15, Minutes of Bushland Management Advisory, 4.16, Minutes of Sustainability Advisory, 4.17, Minutes of Conservation Advisory Panel, and 4.18, Minutes of the Briefing and Workshop.
I'd like to discuss 4.18.
4.18. So items 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 4.11, 4.13, 4.14, 4.15, 4.16 and 4.17. Can we move those in block? Move Councillor Kassab, seconded Councillor Ternouth-Sleeman. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. We now, do we have a mover to that block motion? Now that we are considering them, moved Councillor Vergara, seconded Councillor Ternouth-Sleeman. Any discussion? Councillor Williams, you wish to discuss item 4.10?
10. I noticed in the list of activities that are on the subsequent pages, there's no reference to holding another art in the park, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm going to make you say it.
No, I can't. Whatever it is.
They made me say it on radio about 10 times.
Yeah, no, the landscape art
Yes.
experience, it's not there, and it was such a success this year. I'm just wondering why.
The directors volunteered to say the name, and because I'll butcher it in French if I say it. Director, was that the result of a grant, successful grant? Oh, sorry, Sherry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So Art de la Terre, I believe that we will be.
Art de la Terre, there it is.
Yes, I believe that we'll be holding that every second year. Is the
Okay.
aim? Yes.
Thank you, that's it.
And I do note Councillor Williams and the Art Advisory Committee and Sherry and her fantastic team did a very wonderful job putting that together, and it was very well patronised. So thank you to all of you. Is there any other questions, comments on this block? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.18, council briefings and workshops. Councillors, is there a mover? Move Councillor Kassab, seconded Councillor Ternouth-Sleeman. Any questions, discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Williams.
As we've entered the magical hour and we're not allowed to hold briefing sessions anymore.
Yes.
I'd like to explore how we're going to achieve an efficient process for council to conduct its business. When I was at the conference, it was very clear that the minister did not want to stop the ability for councillors to engage in information sessions, but he did want to stop councils doing it in private. So at this stage, I haven't heard any suggestions as to how we're going to move forward. We could simply hold those meetings to turn on our website to satisfy the minister's concern. Alternatively, we can reinstate a second council meeting, but have that meeting what's the term? Not in the whole, it's,
Closed session.
no,
In camera.
Council and committee of the whole.
no, that's private. But there is a term that we used to use that we could have a discussion, suspend standing orders. And then you could actually enter into information and discussion. And that would then be broadcast, but not a decision-making meeting. So I am very concerned that this process is now not available and we don't have any idea or concept as to how we may achieve an efficient and informed process in our meetings. We used to have 2 council meetings a month, and that was lost in preference or in deferring to a briefing workshop process. But we've now lost that opportunity, and I think the amount of business that all councils deal with, and seeing that the minister's intent was purely to be transparent, not to stop information gathering by councillors, then I think we need to develop in the new year a way to move forward with this.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I think that will be taken on notice and we'll be able to get some options about how we deal with that issue in compliance with the Act. Minister Honing's directive is a little open-ended. So I'm not quite sure. We're going to probably have to benchmark that as to what other councils are doing. Can probably talk with GMAC and NESROC
about how other we can progress something.
Reading it, yeah. Councillors, any further discussion on 4.18? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. There is a question with notice from Councillor Lane. Councillor Lane is an apology. That does conclude our business for this meeting and for 2025. So, councillors, free to go home at 8:37 p.m. But to all of the multitudes watching at home, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hope you have a safe and happy holidays over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully see you all at Clark's Point for New Year's.